How would you like to learn a simple but magical communication tool that will completely transform the way that you talk with your partner? Because that is exactly what we are going to talk about today. You will not only learn why it's important to use this tool, but also when and where to use it in conversation. Now, by not using this tool, you are inviting in more conflict and more finger pointing. It is also a powerful tool for showing affection and appreciation. Let's dive in.
We all grew up watching fairy tales featuring Prince Charming, but not everyone gets the happy ever after they had in their dreams. So, what are you supposed to do when your fairy tale ends? When everything you thought you knew falls apart? Welcome to Happily Ever After, What Now? I'm Kiri Honey, a confident communication coach for women, sharing my own experience after infidelity to help women learn to forgive and find their way forward to a life and relationship they love.
Okay, so what is this simple yet magical communication tool? Well, it is none other than the good old I statement. Let's dive in now to discuss the many benefits that using I statements can have on your relationship. We'll start off by discussing what an I statement actually is. The definition of an I statement is a communication technique used to express one's thoughts, feelings, needs, or concerns in a clear and non-confrontational manner. The term I statement comes from the fact that these statements typically start with the word I, followed by an expression of an emotion, thought, or need. For example, you might say to your partner, I feel abandoned or worried when you consistently come home late without calling to let me know. So it really comes down to a change in the way you use your words. Because more often than not, it's not what you say, it's actually how you say it that matters. And don't get me wrong, I still get this wrong, but I'm much more aware of what I'm saying, and I try to use I statements wherever possible. Instead of saying things like, why are you never home on time? Which is something that I definitely used to do. So today we're going to cover 10 reasons why using I statements are important when you're talking to your partner. So number one is it allows you to express your feelings. I statements allow you to express your own thoughts and emotions and making it about you and not anyone else. So consider, why is this something important to you? How are you being impacted if it involves somebody else's actions? By expressing yourself from a place of self-awareness, you can help your partner understand you better. The real power in I statements really comes from owning your part and taking control and ownership of your side of the story. Which leads me to number two, which is in fact taking ownership. Using I instead of you takes on that personal responsibility, that radical responsibility that I like to talk about in terms of your actions and your reactions to different situations. And in most cases, it can prevent blame and defensiveness. Of course, there are always exceptions to every rule. Number three is avoiding accusations. I statement can minimize the likelihood of your partner thinking they are being criticized or attacked. And it helps create a safer space to be able to have those open and honest conversations. Number four is fostering empathy. By sharing your own experiences, your own emotions, and how you are being impacted, you invite your partner to empathize with you, to help them understand where you're coming from, which will ultimately lead to a better connection between the two of you. Number five, for why using I statements is so important, is because it promotes active listening. When you use I statements, your partner is more likely to hear you and respond in a respectful way because they're no longer feeling like they have to defend themselves or that the finger is being pointed in their direction. Number six is I statements encourage openness. Using I encourages your partner to reciprocate and do the same. So they might then comment back with, I feel, I think, etc., which again leads to more open and honest conversations, which I think is always the goal. Number seven is preventing misunderstandings. How many times has a misunderstanding led to a massive argument in your house? I statements can help you clarify your own intentions and perspectives, reducing the chances of misinterpretation and miscommunication. Not eliminating, but reducing. Number 8, it helps build trust and intimacy. When you're not afraid to be open and honest in a conversation, when you feel safe to express yourself, that is what creates more intimacy and trust, because it shows your willingness to be vulnerable, to take responsibility, and show that you are aware of what you are doing. Therefore, again, reducing that feeling of blame or feeling like you need to be defensive or that you have the finger pointed at you all the time. Now, number 9, for the reasons why I statements make such a difference in your relationship is because it helps resolve conflict. I statements are a constructive way to address conflict. So you can talk about these things that are bothering you and have these difficult conversations, but coming from a place of more understanding, compassion, and problem solving. It allows you to empathize with the other's perspective, allowing you to focus on actually coming up with a solution rather than being right or wrong. And number 10 for why I statements are so important in your relationship is because ultimately they will help strengthen your relationship. Overall, using I statements promotes a healthier, more respectful, more supportive communication style, which can then enhance the overall quality of your relationship. Again, isn't that the goal? So that leads me to when and where can I actually use I statements? Well, they are particularly valuable in your communication with your spouse because, like I said before, they promote understanding, empathy, and conflict resolution, as we've talked about. But let's dive in now to some common situations and places where you might find I statements helpful. Number 1 is during conflict. When addressing issues or having disagreements, I statements will help you express your feelings and thoughts without accusing or blaming your partner. When you need to express your emotions, whether you're happy, sad, frustrated, angry, whatever it may be, using I statements to convey these emotions will help you have a deeper connection with your partner. Again, promoting that understanding, that awareness, and that empathy. Another time you can use I statements is when you're discussing your personal needs. Might be your needs, your desires, your boundaries. I statements will help make your requirements clear without making your partner feel like they have to defend themselves or that they're being blamed for something. For example, I need some time for myself because that helps fill my cup back up. And when I don't get that time to myself, I get overwhelmed easily, and that's what might lead to anger or outbursts and frustration. So having that quiet time is actually really important to me so that I can show up as my best self. Does that make sense? Of course, in order for that to work, you actually have to be aware of what you need and why you need it. Another time that you can use I statements is when you're sharing your concerns. If you're worried about something in your partnership or perhaps concerned about your spouse's behavior, there's likely a difficult conversation that needs to be had. Using I statements allows you to express your concerns without so much finger pointing, without criticizing them, especially if the intention behind the statement comes from a place of understanding the other person's actions or perspective. So let me give you an example. I understand that you need to debrief after work, but I get really anxious about feeding the kids because we've got all these after school activities and I just feel like I'm running out of time. Do you think you could be home earlier on a Tuesday and maybe stay later on a Wednesday instead? Or another example, I know you want to go for a drink after work. I understand that you need to vent, that you require an outlet, but I worry when you're not home by a certain time because I fear that maybe something's happened to you. I just want to know that you're safe. Could you please send me a text or call if you're going to be home after a certain time so that I can relax and just know that you're okay? Another time where you can use I statements is when you're discussing your future plans. Maybe you're talking about what to do with your family, career changes, moving, which school should the kids go to. I statements can be used here to express your thoughts and desires while considering your spouse's perspective in a similar way to what we just talked about. I understand that things are stressful at work. Maybe we should look at some different options. This is my perspective on it. And share your perspective. What do you think? Another key time to use I statements is during important conversations. Maybe you need to talk about finances or parenting or other highly sensitive, highly emotive topics. Now, let me just say here that none of us have gone through the same experiences. We don't have the same upbringing. We have not learned to do things the same way, whether it's about handling money or about how you look after your kids. These topics can be causes of high amounts of tension in relationships. And the friction is largely based off how you were raised or how you have done things in the past. It's really important to express your side of the story and why you do things the way you do. This will help your partner to understand and again, empathize with your way of doing things. But you also need to be open to their way of seeing things, their way of doing things, and why they do things their way. The goal is ultimately to understand each other's perspectives. And you want to be able to come up with a solution together that works for you and your family. Another time that I statements might come in handy is when you are offering feedback. So if you want to provide feedback on something that your partner has done, they may not be entirely open to receiving that feedback. But using I statements can help you communicate your thoughts constructively, positively, and without the same amount of blame, criticism, or judgment that may come from not using them. I statements can also be used to help resolve misunderstandings. Misunderstandings will happen. Using I statements during a situation like this will help clarify your intentions and your thoughts. Even if it's after an argument, you might say something like, "I'm sorry that this got out of hand. It was not my intention. The words didn't come out the way I wanted them to, and things just got blown up." Now, I statements aren't just about resolving conflict or avoiding finger pointing, like we've talked a lot about today. I statements are also powerful in showing affection and appreciation. Let's dive into how. But first, relationships are challenging and rewarding. And just like life, they can be a real roller coaster. But if you're struggling to get back up or tired of waiting for things to be different, I invite you to download my free guide, The 5 Keys to Relationship Revival. Because let's be honest, we don't have to try and figure it out all on our own, nor should we. Learning to navigate challenging times in order to move forward and forgive so you can have more love, compassion, and fun, well, isn't that what makes life worth living? Reviving relationships is a lot quicker and easier with a guide who's been through it and understands how you're feeling. So if you're ready to revive your relationships so you can be heard, understood, and appreciated for the woman that you are, if you're ready to boost your confidence and ability to communicate in a real and empowered way, I invite you to download my free guide at www.kirihoney.com/5 habits freebie. That's kirihoney.com/5 habits. Now, as I mentioned, I statements aren't just about resolving conflict and finger pointing. Statements are also powerful in showing appreciation and affection. For example, "I really appreciate that you brought the bins in for me today. Thank you for emptying the dishwasher. It really relieves some of the pressure I feel at the end of the day. I'm really grateful for how hard you work for our family. I really appreciate it when you fill in the blank because it makes me feel fill in the blank." How would you feel if you were acknowledged in these ways? If the answer is, "I would love it," then start role modeling this way of communicating today. These small actions can go a long way in helping you revive your relationships, and they are super easy to implement. That's it for today. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. May your coffee be hot, your family be happy, and your relationship be fulfilling and fun.